Before I got sober, stressful situations would cripple me, causing more drinking and more drug use and bad behavior. Now, thanks to this simple mantra, I have the tools to manage these situations.
I'm JT. I'm in my mid-30s, have a 10-year media career, and nearly a decade of sobriety. So how did another middle-class kid turn into a blackout drunk and a heroin junkie? More importantly, how did it change, and where do we go from here? This is my story.
Okay, we've all been in those situations, and if you've dealt with any kind of serious depression or alcoholism, addiction, any sort of behavioral or mental issues in your life, you know that these situations can be exasperated in your life. We're talking about things that it seems like normal people can handle so well. I'm talking about the things as small as getting a parking ticket, or forgetting to take care of a small task, like returning, this is dating me a little bit, returning a video to Blockbuster, right? Those late fees start adding up, and all of a sudden, you don't know what to do with yourself. You are crippled by this stress and anxiety that you have caused yourself over a small thing. But of course, this is life in the real world, and big situations come up from time to time. A death in the family, losing a job, a breakup. And when those situations hit you, really don't know how to deal with it. I'm speaking for myself, of course. Now, here's an example from the past, from my using days, of how I would deal with these situations. For example, in college, I lived in a house with about 3 or 4 other guys, all drinking and using about the same amount as me, but we all had to pitch in with our little responsibilities, right? And we all handled certain bills. We divvied it up around the house. One of my bills came around time to pay them, and I gathered the money from everybody else in the house. And that day, I knew I had no money in my bank, essentially. That day, the rest of the guys wanted to go out and drink at a restaurant during the day. Kind of a more celebratory thing for regular people, but in college, that was just like, what are you going to do with your noon on a Tuesday, right? And of course, being the addict that I was, I thought I deserved this 2 o'clock day drinking and lunch with my buddies. So I thought to myself, I'll be all right. I'll just use the money that the roommates gave me. We'll figure it all out tomorrow. Of course, I didn't figure it all out tomorrow, and all of a sudden the bill came due, and I couldn't pay it or didn't pay it, and now things are starting to add up with charges, and I'm crippled by the fact that I can't pay this simple bill. And not only that I can't pay the bill, but I have lied to my friends, so I feel guilt and shame over those things. And so what happens? Well, for me, what happened was that just caused me to drink and use more, because I needed to forget about my actions that had caused these problems in my life and had caused the shame and guilt and despair that I let people down or that I lied to them. Now, this is where we get to the little mantra. Like so many, almost all of the cliches that I've learned in recovery, they are just that. They are cliches. This one is do the next right thing. What exactly does that mean? Doing the next right thing can mean a lot of things. When they first taught this to me in recovery, what it means is when you don't know what to do, when you're thinking about using or drinking in the very, very early stages of being sober, just do the next right thing. What is the next right thing that comes to mind? Oftentimes, early in sobriety, it's as simple as making your bed. I mean, think about that. I hadn't made my bed basically my entire life. And I wonder why small situations might be so crippling. I can't even make my own stinking bed. So doing the next right thing is taking those small steps in front of you. But seriously, at 9 years sober now, doing the next right thing, taking small steps right in front of my face is the only way I get through life every single day. And I'm going to give you some examples of that. Doing the next right thing now can be as simple as some news comes my way at work that is very frightening and scary, and the implications could mean all sorts of things for the rest of my life. Now, of course, as an addict, I probably exaggerate all those things inside my feeble brain. But if I were to take the logical steps down the road of what this information could mean, that could send me short-circuiting and end up in one of those situations like I talked about in college. But what I have to do now is I have to go, okay, the information I have now has not affected my life yet. I have to examine it. Maybe it has, but usually it has not. And I go, how much has this affected my life? So what can I do? Well, I'm going to do the next right thing. And that might be anything. It could have nothing to do with the situation at hand. Here's a great example, and something even bigger and more tangible that's happened in my life that you know about now. About a year ago, I ended up in a breakup with my longtime girlfriend and partner, 5.5 years. The conclusion has come to, that was not my decision, I'll put it that way, that we were no longer going to be together. So number one, I've got to deal with the heartache of knowing my relationship's over. Number two, we owned a home together. So we got to figure out, what are we going to do about this house? Who owns this house? Are we going to sell this house? Am I going to take on all the things of the house by myself? Just went through so much drama and a traumatic experience with building the house and moving into the house. How am I going to handle that by myself? Can I really handle that by myself? And then as all of this is going on, boom, COVID hits, and now quarantine happens, and I'm stuck in the same house with someone who doesn't want to be with me anymore, has just told me they want me out of their life. In fact, can't even really stand the sight of me, okay? So this is an incredibly overwhelming situation. And I'm not saying that I did it the right way, but I'm just going to tell you that I feel like I got through it in one piece because of doing the next right thing. I couldn't sit there and dwell on all of the pain that was coming in, all of the implications of this breakup, or how miserable it could be to be stuck in the same house with someone who doesn't want to be with you. I couldn't focus on that because that could lead to worse and worse decisions for me. So what did I do? I had to do the next right thing. So I just dove straight in. I dove straight into researching, talking to other people. How is the best way to handle this house situation? Can I handle it by myself? Okay, I think I can. If I can do that, what are the next steps to do these things? So I call people I know who might be able to help me. And all of a sudden, I've added up all these tasks that are taking up the majority of my day outside of already working a job and everything that comes with that. So what are we doing here? What am I doing? That I go back to the very first video. I'm filling my day with action. Filling my day with action so that, number one, taking little baby steps, I am getting closer to solving the problem. This one's a little complex, but by taking those little actions, on the whole, the situation is going to solve itself. But not just that. Because I'm filling my day with those actions, I'm not dwelling. I'm not dwelling on the situation at hand. I'm not letting that overwhelming anxiety and stress cripple me and cause more bad behavior out of me, because I will do the wrong thing. Left to my own devices, I will do the wrong thing. And don't let me get by without saying that getting counsel from people that have more sobriety than me and more wisdom and age than me is 100% part of this. Would not be able to get through a situation like that. And, I look back and I go, wow, I kind of actually handled that pretty good. See, I do give myself credit. I kind of actually handled that situation pretty good. There were still mistakes in there and blow-ups and fights that I wish I could have back. But I feel like I did the best I possibly could because I did the next right thing. I put one foot in front of the other. And this goes with everything in my life. I don't always get it right, but I really, really try to do the next right thing. Because if I just sit there and I contemplate everything that this piece of information or this action that's been taken upon me could mean in my life, and I will do that. I will project 50 years down the road. I mean, I'm the type of person where I get an ache in my foot and I've already decided that I've been diagnosed cancer and that my job's going to be in this awful situation of having to decide whether to keep me on because of legal reasons. I mean, think about how crazy all of that is. But that's how my addict brain works, okay? But because of doing small steps in front of me, and seriously, it can have nothing to do with the problem at hand. Making the bed is a perfectly good example. I don't know what to do. I'm overwhelmed by the implications of a piece of information that I've gotten. I'll just make my bed. I'll clean my house. Yesterday, I was a little stressed out. I was a little groggy and tired, and I didn't know if I could do the tasks I needed to, that I knew I needed to do in front of me. So I just cleaned my whole house. And no, that didn't have anything to do with the things I actually needed to do, but it was a positive thing in my life that yielded positive results. And another big part of this is when I fill my day and my life with action. Again, going back to the very first video, I'm exhausted at the end of the day. I don't have the energy to focus on those negative things or the negative implications in my life. So doing the small things, paying a bill. This is why the great Dave Ramsey suggests in the baby steps to pay the smallest bills first to get out of debt, because it's something you can actually accomplish. Making the bed is something I could accomplish. It doesn't always look pretty, but it's something I could accomplish. So that is doing the next right thing. That is what I'm always reminding myself, or trying to remind myself, when I get these big pieces of news or possible implications of negative things that could happen in my life. And sometimes they actually are the negative things. And you know what? When the reality of my mom passing was happening, I wish I'd done the next right thing a little bit more. I didn't always do the next right thing. And that almost ended up with me relapsing. And another lesson I've learned from all this is that bad news often doesn't turn out that way. When I think something is bad news, I can't tell you how many times in my career I've gotten a piece of information from someone I trusted that sounded so frightening and scary, and the implications would be that I would have to be in a different career. They're so scary. And I have seen people, many people in my industry, react to those little pieces of news and completely go off the rails. And if I reacted exactly in an equal way to the news, the way the news came to me, I would have made so many mistakes in my career by now. And to tell you the truth, most of the time, it doesn't end up being the bad news that comes to me. So that's why I always make sure, okay, I assess the situation first. How is this impacting my life right now? This piece of news that's so scary to me, how is it impacting my life right this minute? Usually it's not. And then the next thing I do is I try to figure out what's the next best step, the next small step I can take to not focus on this bad piece of news. And I'll be honest with you, most of the time, that bad piece of news that had the potential to not only change my life, but cripple me with stress and anxiety today, usually looking back, it ended up being a positive thing for me. Really. Okay, let's get the mail. Okay, first we're going to go to Instagram. I was so glad to hear from this guy. This is OMG, it's Jonas on Instagram. I'll just leave his handle at that. He's an old friend of mine and a great guy in the local music scene. Dude, I love that wellness has been your passion since I last saw you. I've only in the last few years started to identify my own addictions and coping mechanisms and started working on myself. I really hope we can have a reunion sometime when everything is safer again. Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you're able to focus on those things and work on yourself. I can only speak from my experience, and working on myself is the only way I get through the day. Again, I hate to take a ton of credit or say that this has been such a huge passion project or anything like that. I'm just talking about what I know, and I'm talking in a way that I know will help heal me. So it's really nuts and bolts for as far as me is concerned. And of course, like I said before, getting to learn the skills of video and all that. But Jonas, thank you so much. I love you, brother. Okay, JR commenting on Facebook. And this was specifically about the willpower episode. He says, man, I feel you on the patience and being out at social events. It's hard for others to understand. It takes a lot of willpower to be patient. Some days are easier than others, and yes, as the night progresses and people consume more, they get loud and out of control. My patience is gone, so I leave. It's just a reminder that nothing good happens after 11 p.m. It's funny, I've seen that phrase altered many times. I think originally it was nothing good happens after 2 a.m., but then it was nothing good happens after midnight. And hey, you know what? As a sober guy, JR's probably right. There probably isn't much good that happens after 11 p.m. Even if I'm still up on my couch watching TV after 11 p.m., I am probably up too late. So that is not good. I'm not going to have as good of a next day as possible if I'm up on my couch after 11 p.m. And you know what? Maybe it does take a little bit of willpower at situations like that. I don't think of it that way personally. I think of it as practicing the principles that I've been taught in recovery and just focusing in on what I can do in those situations. Honestly, what am I going to do? You know, I'm not going to drink. I know I'm not going to do that because that would not be a reciprocal response to the situation. Again, I don't look at it as a willpower situation, but you're right, it is tough, and JR, more power to you for getting through those situations. All right, that's the mail. Again, if you have any questions, comments you would like to contribute, or you have any private questions you would like to ask, I'm happy to answer anything. Please reach out here. You can comment on the video below or comment on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter if you like. Hey family, if you like what we're doing here and you want to see more, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Share it with someone who you think might benefit from watching this, and feel free to comment below. Love.